Welcome to Nonso's Truth, and today we'll be talking about the arguments that you probably shouldn't make against evolution. Evolution is just a theory. This sentiment considers theories to be nothing more than just guesses. This sentiment does not suggest that the theory of evolution is incomplete or incorrect, rather, that it is yet to be verified. Contrary to whatever the person that expresses that evolution is just a theory may hold, scientific theories are explanations that are usually very well supported. Theories bear the burden of requiring an extensive and overwhelming scientific evidence. The objective of a theory is to explain a fact. Whilst theories are constantly being refined, no amount of wishful thinking will cause the discoveries of the fossil record to evaporate from our minds. Evolution is historical science, or cannot, was not, and has not been observed. Historical science is a term coined by creationists to describe sciences providing explanations about past events. Creationists would argue, because you were not there is no way that you can know exactly what it is that happened. However, contrary to a creationist belief, the theory of evolution provides an elegant explanation for the diversity of the species that we see on the Earth within our present time, and whilst creationists are able to concede that the idea of gradual changes in populations take place, the idea that evolution is capable of forming new species is ferociously rejected because of the consequence of all living species sharing a single common ancestor. Yes, humans share a common ancestor with gorillas, bacteria, and other aquatic life forms. Unfortunately, speciation events usually require relatively long time periods to occur. Most speciation events occur over time periods in excess of thousands of years. However, there are a few notable examples of immediately observable speciation. These examples include the anole lizards of the Caribbean islands, salamanders around the Central Valley in California, greenish warblers around the Himalayas, Laris gulls around the North Pole, and the Central European blackcaps. The consequences of evolution via natural selection is also observable in other ways. Our embryology and skeletal system shares distinct similarities with terrestrial and aquatic organisms. These similarities and differences are only understandable in light of evolution. Furthermore, the universal genetic information storage molecule DNA is used within the field of phylogenetics to determine the relationships between all cellular life forms. What scientists are able to observe is a tree of life and not an orchid of life. When will monkeys turn into humans? Answer: never. Monkeys, believe it or not, are adequately adapted to the environment as we are in our present condition to our environment. That is, as lions are to the savannah and fishes are to aquatic environments. That's not to say that evolution is not taking place. You might as well ask, why aren't humans turning into lizards? Rather, what will happen, and has always happened, existing species over thousands of years will progressively form newer species. Have you ever considered what happened to the dinosaurs? I do not believe in evolution because transitional forms do not exist. That is, there are missing links. I would not expect this sentiment to be presented as a reason to disregard the theory of evolution. Transitional forms are constantly being discovered with the inclusion of ancient human fossils. So, how exactly have scientists determined the age of these so-called fossils? I am not an expert, but carbon dating can be used to determine the age of these remains. Their uses extend to samples less than 60,000 years of age. Other radioisotopes, such as potassium, are used for the dating of older specimens, whilst potassium radioisotopes can be used to date specimens less than a billion years of age. Other useful radioisotopes include uranium within rocks and minerals. Of course, the layers within which these fossils are found can be used to date discovered fossils. Younger sediments are found near the top, and older sediments towards Earth's core. Sentiments about evolution being associated with chance events. Life is too complex to have evolved by chance. This sentiment even extends to single cells evolving by chance. Life is so wonderfully suited to the Earth. Why would you think that all of this is by chance? That is not what I'm saying. I would also agree that modern life is too complex to have just sprung into existence. Contrary to popular belief, that is not what evolution teaches. Evolution presents that complex life forms exist because of gradual changes from a simpler state over billions of years. Billions of years. Statements about the improbability of life present real questions about the origin of life, not the processes of evolution. Evolution doesn't provide a meaning to human life, and it conflicts with my faith and religion. Unfortunately, that does not make it wrong. Evolution arose from an ancient pagan idea. Though I'm not saying that it is that supposed to suggest that it is wrong? But whatever you do, do not fall into the trap of presenting pseudoscience. If you are able to trace the talking points from the Institute for Creation Research, you are likely to be very uninformed, misguided, and deceived. The primary objective of the Institute for Creation Research is to discredit much of modern science. This is a quote from www.icr.org, How We Do Research. The Institute for Creation Research is unique amongst scientific research organizations. Our research is conducted within a biblical worldview, since the Institute for Creation Research is committed to the absolute authority of the inerrant Word of God. All origins research must begin with a premise. The Institute for Creation Research holds that the biblical record of primeval history in Genesis is factual, historical, and clearly understandable, and therefore that all things were created and made in 6 days, 6 literal days. Furthermore, the biblical flood was global and cataclysmic, and its after effects therefore explain most of the stratigraphic and fossil evidence found in the Earth's crust. It is within this framework that their research is conducted. Much of the more prominent arguments against evolution via natural selection are approached from arguments from design. These arguments have been adopted from classical philosophy and have been presented by notable figures such as St. Thomas Aquinas and William Paley. Contemporary versions of the design argument includes arguments of irreducible complexity, biological information, and guided evolution, that is, theistic evolution. The premise of these arguments is that there is an intelligent design. The argument is not that gradual changes and speciation events have not and do not take place. The argument is that evolution is not an undirected process, as is presented by Darwin's evolution via natural selection. These arguments are generally weak. Evolution perfectly explains the complexities that we observe, even for complex structures such as the human eye. Even the eye can be understood from something as basic as a sheet of cells with an inability to detect light. The intelligent design argument has more recently been presented as a scientific argument, for example, as it is presented from the Discovery Institute, capitalizing on gaps in scientific knowledge. The premise of intelligent design is, of course, not falsifiable because it necessitates a design that must, of course, be more complicated than its product. This would also mean that the argument is not scientifically useful, nor would it be parsimonious. Wait, don't scientists talk about a Y chromosomal Adam and mitochondrial Eve? Yes, these are concepts presented within the field of human genetics. Whilst Y chromosomal Adam represents the most recent common ancestor father for all humans, mitochondrial Eve represents the more recent common ancestor mother for all humans. They are not our most recent common ancestors. We share that creature with other primates or human species. These father and mother common ancestors change over time and are distinct from the Abrahamic first man and woman, Y chromosomal Adam and mitochondrial Eve had parents and cannot be said to have been the first humans on Earth. They are also unlikely to have lived around the same time and are equally as unlikely to have procreated together. Such a radical change in the theory of evolution, that is, the need to invoke supernatural actions, would be as extraordinary as a claim that humans are simply action figures tethered by an elastic cord to the Earth and neighboring planets by an omniscient alien invisible to us all.